Hello, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome to the Milwaukee Chiefs Cast, live from the Wolf Den. I am Chris.
And I'm Josh, and we're going to be recapping week 11.25, where the highlight is the Chiefs beating the Raiders 35-31. And the next game is week 12, which is this Sunday, 11/29 at 3:25 Central Time, the only time that matters, versus the Tom Brady Bucks. As a reminder to all Southeast Wisconsin residents, you are invited to join us on game day. Visit mkechiefsfans.com.
Today we'll be talking Chiefs, also covering fantasy football and going around the rest of the landscape of the NFL.
And also joining us as per usual, we have Brian Reynolds, who is our Andy Richter-esque producer / sound engineer.
The difference between me and Andy Richter is he's funny.
Sure, fair enough.
Conan helps.
Maybe left, Brian.
We trust you to get this right once again. And once again, we are presented by Complete Weddings and Events, your leading provider of DJ, photo, video, photo booth lighting, and coordination services. Chris, why don't you kick us off talking about the Chiefs?
I will. So it was a bit of a barn burner. I think, I remember us talking about this last week and hearing a lot of pundits thinking that this was going to be a big revenge game for the Chiefs, but turns out the Raiders decided that they had something to say about that. And once again, Derek Carr playing out of his mind, and it seems like the Raiders have a pretty good book on Steve Spagnuolo and crew. And really is, if you think about it from a casual fan standpoint, that was definitely one of the more entertaining Sunday night football games of the year from my standpoint.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I personally can't remember being this mad about a D and since the Sutton years. I mean, I just remember sitting in the Wolf Den and raging with everybody about how horrible the D was playing. And that's kind of how I felt watching this last one. I was happy to see a little bit of a running game, which was a good thing to see. But I was sitting there the whole time saying, I don't know that our defense could stop a nosebleed, let alone whatever the Raiders offense was throwing out this time.
Yeah, no, they definitely have a formula as far as how to go against the Chiefs defense. I guess the one thing I will say that, the Raiders and the Chiefs possess that really hardly any other team has, and that's just a freak tight end. I mean, I don't think anybody on this planet can guard Darren Waller or Travis Kelce one-on-one, and both of those guys were just filling the stat sheet up on Sunday.
Yeah, that's true. Waller did look good. And I think we probably need to give credit to Gruden for putting a good football team together. Did you ever look at that one website? Is GrudenGoneYet.com?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to make sure that I spell this out so everybody knows, because this is hilarious. It is GrudenGoneYet.com. And Brian, if you want to bring that up, what that site is the second that you land on it, it just says no, and it counts down the number of days until his 10-year contract ends. It lists the amount of money that he's still owed. Brian, go ahead and share the screen. Oh, gotcha. And I've got to give permission to share screens. We're better than this, just not much.
I think I'm getting promoted right now.
You are getting promoted.
Closer to Andy Richter status, sir.
Yeah.
My pay is going to get doubled, I think.
I got to get out of my personal try to share. Let's see here. Advanced sharing options. All right. Go for it. All right, so here we go. When the site comes up, it just says no. And then it counts down how much is left on his contract. And the best part about it is, since we've been on here, Gruden's made $20. I mean, that dude has made a ton of money, and he's still doing it. He's kind of my hero, honestly. And since we've arrived, he has made $30 million since the life of his contract. He's starting to be worth it at this point.
Yeah,
That's the long and short of it. So we should probably dial back the Gruden hate but not enough to not bring stuff like this up. But yeah, is
Oh,
Gruden
no.
gone yet.com. If you have any Raiders fans in your life, I sincerely suggest that you bring this up. I have a couple, and they laugh at it, but they're about as happy as you would expect. So but yeah, so Gruden's obviously doing a great job there. A couple other notes that I had from that game. That game was kind of excruciating to watch until about the 2-minute warning, knowing that we had the ball and we were ready to, march down the field and everything. I never really had any feeling other than we were going to take it to them, and this was going to ruin their entry to playing the Chiefs in Las Vegas, because apparently that's where the team is at these days. They're not in Oakland anymore for whatever reason, but there was a good deal of banner throughout the Facebook world with our group about some of the offense looking lethargic, and they were aiming it specifically at Kelsey. I didn't really feel that through the entire game.
Really?
Yeah, I really didn't. It didn't bother me how he was playing one bit. I pretty much looked at the entire offense, and they just had this edge on their face of, we're going to have to fix this, and we just need to stop the defense from screwing it up. And by God, they tried to.
And they were playing complementary football too. I mean, the time of possession was huge in the way on their side, and they also tied franchise record for first downs in a game with 36. You would think, having the football for that long would actually help the defense, but unfortunately it didn't seem to do so.
Yeah, it was crazy. But with about 5 minutes left in the game, though, I made a comment, Kelsey's going to score the winning touchdown, and I was pretty happy to be right on that one. But the thing that I loved, right before the Chiefs started walking down the field, they threw a graphic up of Paul Gunther, the defensive coordinator for the Raiders, and talked about how it was his birthday. I am so glad that we were able to ruin his birthday for him. It couldn't happen to a better guy. I know nothing about him other than that he's the Raiders defensive coordinator, so it couldn't happen to a better guy. But to kind of round this game out, this is actually looking like a real rivalry again, which I can't say that I'm upset about that. This Raiders offense isn't a joke. John Gruden isn't a joke. And I think we've got some, real football in the next couple of years coming up.
Yeah, I agree. No, to go back to your comment earlier about Raiders fans seemingly taking John Gruden for granted. I mean, he's definitely one of the handful of coaches in the NFL that are worth his contract. Might be debatable, but I mean, you saw Matt Patricia just got fired today. I mean, a good head coach in the NFL really is hard to come by nowadays. So when you have one, don't be so quick to say, hey, we got to get this guy out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of good head coaches, I think that we can both agree that Eric Bieniemy is going to be one. So he's got to be gone after this season.
Yeah,
absolutely has to be. Who's going to be our next offensive coordinator?
That's interesting. I've listened to some comments on the radio, and there was actually a poll. So Mike Kafka is probably I would say that the guy in waiting as far as internally.
Sure.
But there's also some talk that if Matt Nagy isn't long for his position with the Bears, that he could actually make a return to Andy Reid's staff. If I had a choice, I'd rather keep it in-house with Kafka, but it can go either way as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for sure. So what was your favorite play call of the week for the game for the Chiefs?
I'm always in favor for Andy Reid going forward on 4th and short, even regardless of where they're on the field. I mean, unless they're, I would say, inside their own 30. I think when you've got 15, go for it. And he did that on the first drive of the game with a 4th and 1 at the Raider 35.
Yep.
And it wasn't just my favorite play because he went for it. He actually dialed up a pass play. We've seen a lot of inside handoffs, which, has been almost a coin flip, or Patrick Mahomes, screwing up his kneecap on a quarterback sneak. So to see him
I think you'd never bring that up again.
Yeah, well, and we can debate on whether or not that would ever happen, but just the whole fact that he put the ball in his hands, and Mahomes made a great quick throw to the outside. I think it was to Tyreek Hill for the first down.
Yep.
That's I think the best way to handle a 4th and short is keeping in 15's hands.
Yeah, we went for it, and it was great. So my play call that I liked the most was getting Le'Veon Bell in the end zone. I mean, there's nothing bad that's going to come out of having another good running back, and to a certain degree, you have to score when you're a player like him, and it takes some confidence to keep everything going. And I was glad to see him getting a little bit of confidence going there. So what I thought was the best play call of the week was Andy Reid not even thinking about going for a field goal on that last drive. His commentary after the game is like, I have 15, so I felt pretty good. And I love that all the Andy Reid can't manage the clock or run a 2-minute drill has just gone away since Patrick Mahomes has been in town. I know a ton of Eagles fans. I mean, I know people that are fans of every single fan of every NFL team, just the amount of like running around that I've done. And the Eagles fans just hated Andy Reid so badly because he couldn't run a 2-minute drill. And my comment to them was, are you sure that this wasn't a Donovan McNabb couldn't run a 2-minute drill? And, maybe when he got to Kansas City and it still didn't work, maybe Alex Smith wasn't that great at running a 2-minute drill. And maybe this isn't as easy as you think it is. There's part of the play calling, but I mean, flipping Tom Brady, is the best in history at doing that. Maybe that's because he's Tom Brady. Maybe that's why he's Tom Brady. And I think Mahomes has some of that. And I'm just glad to see that that's just melted away from Reid's, rap sheet since he's been in Kansas City.
Yeah. And to go back to your comment about McNabb and Smith, I mean, it's a lot easier to go down the field within 2 minutes if you're throwing the ball, 10 yards and beyond, as opposed to checking it down.
Yeah.
So I think that's been a big part. We saw it in the AFC Championship game 2 years ago. It's like 31 seconds, no problem. 2 big pass plays, and they tie it up and they go to overtime. So, when you got a guy who's willing to take chances down the field, your opportunity in the last 2 minutes of a game go way up.
Absolutely. So if this week was a song, what you got?
For me, and this is pretty much, I think, the song that plays in the back of my head anytime I see Patrick Mahomes come out of the tunnel is My Hero by the Foo Fighters, because he is my hero and he saved us again.
Hell yeah. That's a little bit of a Varsity Blues throwback too. That was, the montage of when they flipped the script and, Bud Kilmer was on his way out and Lance was taken over as the head coach of the West Canaan Coyotes. I know Brian loves 90s movies and stuff like that. So I'm more than happy to bring up Varsity Blues this week.
More than that, I love very specific references about those 90 movies. So like very minute details on them. So thank you, Josh. This is a great experience so far.
Hey, you bet. If we can't talk about specific scenes on Varsity Blues, what can we do? My song picking from that same period of time is remember the band Filter?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so I got Hey Man, Nice Shot. Really all I got to say is good try, Raiders, but the adults were doing good work up in here and we're good to go. Rolling into X Factor of the week, I think it's Dirty Dan with another Dirty deed done dirt cheap. That interception to close everything out. I mean, I was waiting for the defense to make a play that entire game, and lo and behold, it's Dirty Dan.
Yep, Mr. Opportunity.
Mr. Opportunity.
Yeah, for me, it's the offensive line. I thought played really well. I mean, you remember the last Raider game, it seemed like Patrick Mahomes was running for his life every play, and he almost to the point where he almost looked tired. But I thought the O-line did a great job. And really, he didn't, no sacks on Mahomes this week, and really not a whole lot of QB pressures either.
Well, and going back to my comment about Le'Veon Bell scoring, I mean, the big thing when you think of a running game, the line is 50% plus of that.
Yeah.
And the line played well. I agree with that. So what do you got for sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say also the touchdown run that Edwards-Helaire had around the right side. I think it was a 15-yard touchdown run. That was really they did a great job of blocking on the edges. Collinsworth had brought that up.
Yeah. Well, and both of our running backs getting in the end zone, that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal to see. So what's your prediction for this Sunday?
Well, so I'll admit I'm pretty nervous about the defense right now. I think their confidence may have been a bit shattered, and then you saw a bit of infighting on the sideline with Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed as well. So I am worried that that's going to carry over a bit, and also the Bucks, while they are hot and cold, I think they have a fairly similar offense to the Raiders, and I could see this being another back and forth. So I've got actually similar score to what we saw against the Raiders, 34-30.
So just out of curiosity, when you're saying that the offenses are similar, did you just compare Tom Brady and Derek Carr to each other?
I compared 43-year-old Tom Brady to Derek Carr, yes.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear about that. So I was too lazy to update my notes from last week, and I had the Chiefs winning 42-21, so I went ahead and kept that. And the extra notes that I have is I see Dirty Dan and the landlord each getting a pick of TB12. He's taking a lot more risks this year than he really ever did under Belichick. Also, in other completely unrelated news, Brady seems to be having a lot of fun this year.
And Belichick is not.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Come to find out, living under a regime isn't fun. But anyway.
Yes.
But anyway, so let's get into favorite Chiefs stat of the week. I don't know that I'm going to say that I like this one, but the dumb stat to pay attention to this week for me is the Chiefs are actually on a 5-game losing streak against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that is the longest of any team that they're playing against. Now, to throw a little bit of context into this, when the streak started was in 1999, which would have been the season after I finished high school, so I was like fresh into college at Fort Hays State University. Go Tigers. And Trent Dilfer, when he was playing for that team, actually beat the Chiefs and whoever the hell was taking snaps at that point. It's not even worth thinking back to what that team actually looked like. But the Buccaneers that we play every 4 years have kind of had our number. I mean, Josh Freeman, took advantage of us and stuff. So that's my stat of the week, if you will.
And that terrible game, I think 3 or 4 years ago against Jameis Winston.
Yep, that was another one.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that guy's thrown some touchdown passes in his day and interceptions too.
Yes, Mr. 30-30. Yeah.
30-30.
That's
So
right.
who was 30-30 in baseball? That's a compliment.
It is. Yeah. So it's too bad that Jameis isn't a baseball player. But
yeah, exactly. And he played well enough that Taysom Hill got a start this last week.
he did. I actually had Taysom starting at tight end for me on that week. So I got some QB points at tight end, but yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So what was your old friend alert from this week? And I know you had a really good one. We were talking about this before.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of times when I'm watching the game, I'll watch the Bleacher Report feed, and Bleacher Report picks up on just about anything. As far as what's funny is if you pay attention to it a lot, Cam Irving gets mentioned a lot on the Bleacher Report feed just because he's a former Chief. But this one specific comes from Brooke Pryor. So Brooke Pryor is a former writer for the Kansas City Star. She's the Adam Teicher equivalent for the Steelers now.
Yep.
And she actually pointed out a play where there was actually a pass that went off the hands of Chris Conley and then was almost intercepted by Steven Nelson. Both of them dropped the ball on the same play. No kidding. But I found that to be pretty funny.
That's awesome. So my old – we good? Okay, thought Brian spilled a drink and we were going to derail this entire thing. So my old friend alert is going to be similar to last week. Last week I talked about Matt Nagy. This week I want to talk about Doug Peterson. He seems to be losing control of his situation in Philly. And I know that they've had a ton of injuries and things of that nature, but it's getting a bit exhausting listening to him defend Carson Wentz. I mean, I totally laughed when he had a reporter talk about Wentz, and he made the comment, have you ever played quarterback in the NFL? I know that a lot of people take exception to that, but I love it. if I was Doug Peterson, I wouldn't want to sit there and take crap from some D-bag from Philly, talk about a position he knows nothing about. But, defending Carson Wentz is kind of getting hard, and Wentz has lost something. And Peterson saying benching Wentz would send a wrong message kind of rubbed me the wrong way. What kind of message, what would the wrong message be? That we have a standard that you need to live up to?
Or it's financial.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, maybe some of this is Peterson's trying to build up Wentz's confidence because he understands that 2 more wins, in the next 2 weeks is domination of this horrible division. Or maybe this is kind of something like the Saints situation. We all went into this week of football thinking Jameis Winston was going to be getting the ball and the opportunity to resurrect his career, but he must be looking horrible in practice to not get that opportunity. That's what I personally believe.
Or the fact that Taysom Hill makes almost 10 times more than he does.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do think there's something to the financial aspect. I don't know.
I mean, that's possible, but I don't see anything from my perspective that makes me think that the Saints are trying to do anything other than have Taysom Hill be the change of pace that nobody can actually practice for. I mean, there's no way to practice for that. You can. I think back to high school football, and we would spend a substantial amount of time every single week preparing for the one stupid play that the team we were playing against was going to try and do. And we would have all these, weird scenarios, and then lo and behold, they come out and just run the ball down your throat because you weren't paying attention to the fact that they had a good offensive line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, at this point in Philly, I'm guessing that Jalen Hurts hasn't given any kind of indication that he can, run an NFL offense. So I don't know, it's crazy, but between Nagy and Doug Peterson, the Andy Reid coaching tree just isn't looking awesome these days, which is unfortunate because I think they're both good coaches and just kind of messed up situations with quarterbacks that aren't really getting it done. So I don't know, kind of circling back to the next offensive coordinator, I would not be shocked if we get a little bit of a retread on one of those two.
It's possible, yeah.
At some point here. So anyway, what else did you see in the rest of the AFC?
Well, as far as the rest of the AFC goes, Baltimore and Tennessee, that was a good game if you caught it. I have serious, and this is before all the COVID-19 outbreak has happened here in the last few days, but I have serious doubts that Baltimore is going to make the playoffs at all. I think that team is really reeling right now, and they blew a fourth quarter lead in that game, which, Baltimore's supposed to be able to protect leads late in games. They're given their style of football. Yep. So I think that really changed the landscape as far as the playoff picture goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of my observations are going to be in that AFC North. Ravens losing again. How the hell did Lamar Jackson ever get a single MVP vote? Looking at him right now, that's a question you have to ask. I mean, I know last year was different, but he just does not look like anybody that's ever deserved to have his name written down on anything.
Yeah, well, he also, when your top target is Marquise Brown, that also doesn't help you out either. But
yeah, fair enough. But, yeah. I mean, other stuff that I saw in the AFC North, the Browns won again, and they look pretty good doing it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a team that we could end up facing the first round of the playoffs. They're going to be positioned for that, either them or Las Vegas.
Yeah, the Raiders, the Browns, and the Ravens seem to be everything.
Keep your eye on.
Yeah, for sure. And then speaking of AFC North, another week opponent, and another Steelers win.
Yeah, I still haven't watched Pittsburgh play this year, so I don't have an eye test of my own, but yeah, they definitely have an easier schedule down the stretch.
Oh, exactly. I mean, they're a good team. We need to not take anything away from them. They're a good team, but they're not a 10-0 team, in my opinion. The other thing that I noticed was it was a really rough day for rookie quarterbacks. Tua getting benched for being really bad, that was unfortunate. But the thing that really sucked was watching Joe Burrow go down in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
He was putting together a good season, some of that light at the end of the tunnel for Cincinnati. And I mean, he's still going to be that, but it's just unfortunate to see a kid like that go down that was having a great season.
The Cincinnati Bengals are 2-7, and that is light at the end of the tunnel level. That's the kind of the depths they were in.
You know the history of the Bengals, Brian?
Yeah.
Well, I see Browns are 7-3. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And then I see the Bengals are 2-7, and the Burrow goes down. I'm like, well, he was having a great season. I'm like, okay, maybe I don't understand what's going on.
No,
well, in fairness, that team has been trash forever, and so the fact that you have a competent quarterback means something can be built upon. And quite frankly, if I'm a Bengals fan, I don't want him to win a ton of games. I want to keep him in that top 5 draft pick because Joe Burrow is going to need a left tackle, and I think that's even more obvious right now. He's also going to need some defense and things of that nature. So
AJ Green's not getting any younger either.
AJ Green's not getting any more useful either. So then just to wrap up the rest of the AFC, that AFC South is looking good. The Titans had another tough win, and the Colts are looking tough as well, grinding out that win against the Packers, which jumps right into the NFC. Speaking of the Packers, they found another creative way to lose a game. I quit watching that game because I thought it was over, and I wanted to watch Sporting KC, SKC. And per social media, all the people, I mean, I know we live in Wisconsin, so we probably see more of this than anybody. Everybody was sitting there ready to blame Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And I mean, fine, he played like crap, but I don't really think that Marquez Valdez-Scantling, gave up a 14-point halftime lead. He didn't single-handedly do that. I mean, he got to a point where he had to make a play at the end of the game, but if you put yourself in a position where to win a game, you have to have a Marquez Valdez-Scantling or a player like that make a play. Don't you have bigger problems?
Yeah. No, I watched that game, which the last 2 minutes took about an hour because they called a penalty on just about every play the Colts ran down the stretch.
Yeah.
I've never seen that many holding calls called in literally one drive in my life. But no, I mean, the Packers aren't even in overtime if MVS doesn't make that really nice catch over the shoulder I think it was a 47-yard gain on the last drive of overtime. So it's unfortunate. Like Rodgers actually said it best. He said, we've all done something like that. It's just the timing of it was horrible. And I don't doubt for a second that Marquez Valdez-Scantling is completely broken up about this and wants to make up for it. So it's
absolutely.
And
the whole thing kind of reminded me of a lower stakes version of was it 13 or 14 where the Packers had the Seahawks lead in the NFC Championship game, and that poor tight end, like the dude was getting death threats and stuff like that. It's like, first of all, people need to find a better hobby because it's not worth talking about people like that, but it's just you're on the hands team for a reason, and it's just an unfortunate time to make a mistake. And that's not the type of crap that should just be following you for the rest of your life, making one bad play. And
and you think about everything that led up to that onside kick. It's like, play defense, stop Russell Wilson.
Exactly.
You're not in that position. So
don't give up a 14-point lead to the point where you need that. It was just it was dumb, just absolutely stupid. But I don't know. I think the Packers are one of the more horribly run teams in the NFL. Packers fans are, definitely into complaining about stuff like Mike McCarthy and Ted Thompson, and he was left alone to his devices for too long and blah, 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 blah. But I don't know. For me, Mark Murphy's public enemy number one, and I think he's, one of the 5 worst owners in football. I mean, the Packers don't have an owner, but Mark Murphy's technically the guy who sits in that seat, and he's horrible. Guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So getting into the rest of the NFC, I'm going to go ahead and kind of sing here for a second. Fly, Eagles, fly. You're a putrid football team. Eagles, Eagles sucks. Something fierce. God damn, that team sucks. It's hilarious.
No, they are, because they're now behind the Washington football team, if you notice the standings right now.
I did notice the standings right now. We're going to get into Thanksgiving, which is why this is the 0.25 week. So, another NFC East news, the Cowboys, won this last Sunday. So this, race is still in play. And like I said last week, I love it. The idea of having a 6-win team get into the playoffs and just the world burning down because of it is just crazy funny to me. The Washington football team won again on Sunday as well. Any other NFC comments before I get into Thanksgiving?
Yeah. No, NFC West, another interesting week for the NFC West. The Seahawks-Cardinals game was really good. Seahawks flipping the script and coming out in that one. And then the Rams taking care of the Bucs on Monday night prior to the Chiefs getting the Bucs. But that division's still up for grabs with Seattle, Arizona, and LA.
Yeah, and the defending NFC champion 49ers are the worst team by far in that division.
Yeah, because of injuries.
Yeah, and who the hell wants to play those guys any Sunday?
No.
They're crazy. The NFC West is just a phenomenal division.
Yeah,
So getting into the Thanksgiving games, here's the first thing that I noticed. Is there a worse contract in the NFL than Zeke Elliott? Seriously.
Well, Carson Wentz, actually, since you brought him up, but no, I mean, any running back contract of that type, it's like Todd Gurley when he got signed a few years ago, and now Todd Gurley is, what he is now with Atlanta. It's never good to invest in a running back over a quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. And specific to that situation, just horrible, malfeasance for Jerry Jones. I mean, it's his money, so he can do whatever the hell he wants to, as a general manager. But I would think that if Jerry Jones had an actual general manager who made that move, he would probably fire him. And so homeboy needs to look in the mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
he's needed to for the last 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. But couple other things about Zeke Elliott. That was his 6th fumble on Thanksgiving, and he was just a straight up non-factor. There are a bunch of and one situations going for first downs, and they're throwing the ball. And I just can't even think of any time in the last 3 years that you think about doing anything other than just, feed Zeke Elliott, which I absolutely abhor watching people do that in a stadium. And I've actually watched a game in Dallas Stadium where people are doing this whole eating thing. And I'm like, I want to throw rocks at all of you.
Yeah.
Can we play this game in Philly where they throw batteries and shit? I mean,
that's right.
Just nonsense. But speaking of Thanksgiving games, I know you said that you didn't catch a whole lot of that, and I'm guessing it's because you can't think of a time where you were less excited about a Thanksgiving Day slate than this one.
It was I can't say I regret any of it. The Houston-Detroit game was, I think, it wasn't as I think, I can't remember the score of the game, but it got Matt Patricia fired at the end of the day, I guess. Exactly. But it was just a couple of games that I don't think they imagined being this bad, or at least all 4 teams being this bad, but unfortunately they were.
Yeah. Well, after the Baltimore and Pittsburgh game, COVIDed itself out to Sunday, which is now Tuesday, we were left with those games. And
if that happens, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, that would have been a good game. But at this point, I think the Cowboys and Lions, if we're thinking of a Thanksgiving dinner, these guys are the cranberry sauce and the Aunt fill-in-the-blank special mystery casserole that shows up every year. I know there's people that like to eat all this crap and whatnot, but I would probably miss them, if they weren't there. But at the same time, it's like this is kind of just a novelty of Thanksgiving at this point. And one of these years, it would be cool to watch, a turkey and stuffing game.
Yes.
Because that's just really not what we're getting. And I've thought for a long time, and this is a subject for another day that we can get into, but I really think that the NFL should take a serious hard look at not scheduling any primetime games, at least in the second half of the season, and flexing everybody into them. And I understand that you're potentially screwing over some fans who buy tickets and don't know when they're going to go to a game, but just think about if you would take Thanksgiving off the table here, and let's just leave the Cowboys and Lions alone for a second, but just think of Sunday night and Monday night and Thursday night football every single week. If you could just pick the actual best matchup, how would that not be just a ratings boon for the entire league?
Yeah, I think the NFL probably would like to do that. I know some games, like I think the 3 o'clock slot for CBS is pretty much locked in every week. I know that plays a bit into it, but
yeah,
that would make so much sense. I mean, it would definitely keep my attention on Thanksgiving as opposed to, watching movie cooking, because that's about all I did on Thursday.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you want to keep the Cowboys and Lions, I know the tradition is that they both host a game. How about make them play each other until they prove that they're
have them play each other.
Horrible, run franchises.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing that I'm going to say about Thanksgiving is as much as that game was horrible, I thoroughly enjoyed watching the Washington football team and AS11, our old friend alert, romp all over the Cowboys. And I'll tell you that as much as watching the world burn with a 6-win team would be hilarious to me, I'm officially rooting for Alex Smith and the Washington football team to win out for the rest of the season, be 9-7, and get that playoff, deal. I absolutely can't stand Dan Snyder. I think that, he's one of the 2 worst owners in all of pro sports, along with James Dolan from the Knicks. Those guys are just horrible individuals. Yeah. But really, really like Ron Rivera. Always like Ron Rivera. Really, really like Alex Smith. Always liked Alex Smith. And, Ron Rivera coming back from his whole cancer thing, beating all of that, completely flipping the script, turning that team around. They finally changed the team name, just all that stuff. I mean, it just seems like a good story to have the Washington football team and Alex Smith and Ron Rivera go into the playoffs, and they'd be hosting like a Seahawks or a Buccaneers or something to that effect at that point. I'd love to see them win a game. I think that would be great. I think that would be a good feel-good story for football. And I really want to see them win out and have that winning record, so we don't have to have the whole like, change playoffs type of thing.
I second that. So
yeah, cool. You want to get into this fantasy football?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I need a boom, bust, and okayest player from you. What do you got?
Okay. All right. So my boom is really, I don't know, not necessarily boom, but he just continues to fill the stat sheet. And I'm lamenting this because I had him at one point on my fantasy football team and stupidly let him go. And that's Justin Herbert. So 366 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, another he's continuing to be one of the best fantasy players right now. As far as my bust goes, Matt Ryan, I mean, that 232, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, and 8 sacks. Not Matt Ryan's best day, maybe his worst in quite a long while. And then my okayest is Lamar Jackson. 186 yards, 51 rush yards. That's 51 rush yards carries a pretty decent amount of weight for the quarterback, but only 1 passing touchdown. So, and again, he wasn't anything spectacular in a game that the Ravens really needed.
Yeah, so what that stat line reminds me of is back in the day when Tim Tebow first came into the league. He was he was it's mean, but it's also true. I mean, he was always a guy that was worthy of being on a roster because that mediocre stat line with the rushing yards and everything. And I remember Tim Tebow was always good for 6 points of passing, which is 150 yards worth of throwing, which is a joke. But he also always ran a touchdown in, so you got 6 from that. And then he also usually threw at least 1 as well. So, it was hard to say that you wouldn't play him. but I definitely feel your pain on the Justin Herbert thing. I don't think anybody really expected him to keep this going for as long as he has. And lo and behold, the quarterback competition in the AFC West is actually coming from the Chargers. One of these days, maybe John Elway figures out how to get a quarterback in there, but I think he's going to get fired before that happens, and it's hilarious.
Oh, I hope so.
No, I mean, I lived in Denver before I moved to Milwaukee, and there is nothing more soul crushing to the people out there than having to watch John Elway get fired. And I'm looking forward to it.
Ooh. I will say this about Tim Tebow, if I may. He's a pretty good baseball player. That's my commentary on that guy.
Yeah, so do you remember watching the movie The Rookie with Dennis Quaid? We're going to throw back to some early 2000s movies here. Yeah, so great movie, and that's just a great story in real life. But there was a whole thing about how the dude was a novelty that was chewing up roster spots for somebody who was a little more worthy. I don't think that was the case with that guy, but Tim Tebow's spot on the Binghamton Mets was a little bit of a travesty. He really was icing out some guy that should have been in Double-A that could probably actually help the Mets organization just for the sole purpose of selling tickets that are $5 a piece. That's a great park, by the way. I like the Binghamton Park. Just to get the B Mets an extra 1,000, seats a night. It's crazy.
Well, and Double-A is typically where you keep your best prospects. So I don't think that Tim Tebow was knocking on the door.
No, he wasn't.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he hit a home run on his first at bat? That's all I remember. I'm pretty sure he did. Tell me I'm wrong. Someone tell me. Can you hear me? You can hear me? What's going on?
No, I can hear you. I actually don't know. That's how close I kept up with Tim Tebow.
Yeah. I think that's possible. I'm not going to look it up, but I think you're right.
It's a better memory than watching him, jogging off a practice shirtless in the rain. But, yeah.
I was right.
With the Jets.
No, I took the 5 seconds to look it up, and I was right. First at bat, home run. All right. Now, I don't know how we do what we do with this information on Chiefs podcast, but here we are.
Yeah, I don't know either. The biggest Tim Tebow what if for me is I thought that we really had an opportunity to replicate the butt fumble in the New York Jets system, and I'm upset we didn't get it.
Can I just say I feel terrible for Mark Sanchez? That's his name, right? Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez, yeah.
You can say whatever you want about that. I'm pretty sure that Mark Sanchez was looked at as a generally good-looking guy who was sitting in New York during the prime of his career, whatever that means. And I don't feel bad for him at all.
No, he's making a pretty good check, I think, on Fox pregame. So
I remember when the butt fumble happened. Like I was on the top. The not top 10 every round, and they always had number one was always that, and that went on for like 3 years or something. I mean, it was a long time. I was like, can we give this guy a break? And they're like, no, we are not giving him a break. That's not happening. So let's
that place still doesn't seem real whenever I see it. It's just, it really is unique and one of a kind.
Poor guy.
Absolutely, and I find it absolutely impossible to feel sorry for somebody who played in 2 professional teams, because USC, during the period of time that he was there especially, that was a pro team.
Yes.
Mark Sanchez lived in Southern California and was the most eligible bachelor, and then he moved to New York and he was the most eligible bachelor. I can't feel sorry for somebody who I'd trade places with, on a moment's notice.
All right, now maybe playing it over and over again makes it more sense to me, the person making these decisions. So that's just me. But, yeah, you know what? Josh, you make a good point. That guy, you know what? I think he's like, you know what? My life is okay. Let's all chill out. If you feel bad for me, don't.
Yeah, Mark Sanchez is fine.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into the player that played well enough for an XFL assignment. I'm going to go ahead and throw out Marquez Valdez-Scantling from the Green Bay Packers. I don't necessarily, think that he deserves all the brunt that he got, but I can tell you that every single Packers fan in the world was ready to send him there this last Sunday. And I don't really know that you could do that because Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst didn't get around to getting another wide receiver. But it looks like they have an opportunity with Kenny Stills getting released by the Houston Texans. So we'll see if they can handle picking that guy up.
Oh, gosh. Well, for me, I think it's got to be the coach, which is Matt Patricia. So he could very well be on his way to the XFL.
That's true.
Now that he's a free agent again. So, yeah. The thing about Matt Patricia that really gets me is, when was he ever a good defensive coordinator? Because every time I saw him on the sideline, the Patriots were getting lit up. So I'm not getting the connection with Matt Patricia here. I don't know.
He's your garden variety Patriots Bill Belichick lackey that's going to get a job because he's a Bill Belichick lackey, and everybody wants to sit there and try and recreate the magic they have there, which, come to find out, the Patriots magic is Bill Belichick is a good coach, and he's good with in-game situations, and Tom Brady apparently was the best quarterback ever. And when you have those two things together, you're going to win a lot of football games, and it doesn't really matter what the weird dude who's a wannabe Belichick hoodie wearing, can't shave, beard, plastic, laminated
pencil in the ear
sheet with a pencil type. I mean, I don't know. I have no reason to dislike Matt Patricia, but he's one of those guys I just kind of look at and I don't like you.
I just, his last game as a defensive coordinator was getting lit up by Nick Foles and the Eagles in the Super Bowl. It's like, I just don't get it. Like,
that guy
right there, defensive
is
coordinators out there.
That guy right there is who you need to put in charge of an NFL team. And ladies and gentlemen, your Detroit Lions. Oh man. So who's your XFL designation was Matt Patricia. Patricia, anything else we want to cover before we get into our parting shots?
Well, one thing I looked at, and I think they actually went over this during the Sunday Night Football game against the Raiders, but 4 years ago, almost to the day from yesterday, was the 4-year anniversary of the overtime game in Denver, where if you remember, it was the game where Justin Houston actually wrecked the right tackle for the Denver Broncos. They got benched for Donald Stevenson. And then that was a game where I think Trevor Siemian actually looked like an NFL quarterback for one game. But that was a pretty crazy game, ending with, I think, time ticking out in overtime with Cairo Santos hitting the goalpost twice before the ball went through.
Yeah. Cairo Santos, which, for the record, is a Brazilian-born guy. I think that was always a descriptor for him. Cairo Santos, who was born in Brazil. And that always just made me think of the Lonesome Kicker Adam Sandler song. I'm like, are you sure you didn't want to stay in your home country and be a minor league soccer player?
Makes me think of Ray Finkel as well. But
yeah. Laces out. That Dan Marino needs to die of gonorrhea and rot in hell.
That's right.
That's an Einhorn Finkel.
Finkel and Einhorn. Einhorn's a man. Einhorn's a man.
Oh my God.
All right. What's your parting shot?
Well, my parting shot was going to be about Marcus Valdez-Scantling. Again, Packers fans, take it easy on the guy. I mean, again, you're not even in that position in overtime if you hadn't made what was a really nice catch in regulation. Again, he seems to have taken that really hard. And again, it's not like he's, like Odell Beckham Jr. or someone like that who just, whatever, at least I got my check. The guy, he's going to bounce back. And again, your defense and your offense in that second half played atrocious. And that's the reason why you're there in the first place. So I don't take it out on that guy. He, hopefully he bounces back and does well this next weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that he woke up and just said, "Hey, I'm an NFL number 2 receiver." I think that he would be more than happy being in the position like Byron Pringle's in. It's like, "Hey, I'm happy to be on the team. Let me return some kicks, but this is clearly a Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, McCole Hardman type of thing. I believe that, with some true serum, Valdez Scantling would say that that's where, he fits in an NFL roster.
Yeah.
All right, so my parting shot is going to be Sporting KC again for a second week in a row. They moved on in a closer than it should be game. That game was more of a nail biter than I signed up for. The winner should have been early in stop time when Busio kicked that ball through, and then SKC had an opportunity a couple minutes later, I think again with Busio, they just didn't capitalize on it. The celebration from the first Busio goal, though, in extra time, earned from the referees. And I think this was probably right, an extra 2-3 minutes. So we get into the 97th minute, I believe. And before the last whistle came in, we got wandoed, which of course was a goal from Chris Wondolowski in what might be his last MLS game. He is the MLS regular season goal leader with 166 goals. And he's really, truly an MLS legend. He's California born, part of the U.S. men's national team. And the thing about Wando, I don't like him because he played for the Quakes, and he's always been a rival. But the thing that I can't get out of my head was that 2014 World Cup. And during that game against Belgium, I was actually in jury duty. And when I was getting selected for the jury, the judge just goes, I want honest answers for all of these things. Is there anybody that doesn't want to be here? And I raised my hand and they asked me why. I'm like, why did you have to ask me why on this? And I said, well, I think I'd rather be at work and the World Cup's on, and I'd rather be watching that. And she just goes, oh, well, that's great. I appreciate your honesty here, and I trust that you could still give this guy a fair trial. I'm like, yes, I can. And so, of course, I get selected to the jury. And so we finish our deliberation. We hand down the verdict and everything like that. And so I bust out of there, and I run downtown to Moe's Irish Pub on Wisconsin and Plankinton to catch the last 10 minutes of regular time. And the lasting memory is watching Chris Wondolowski just not be able to have a good finish on that ball. And if the goaltender would have gotten in the way, fine. But Wondolowski to score 166 goals in MLS regular season, you should have been able to put a clinical ball through. And the U.S. should have been moving on past Belgium. And apparently that was our last hurrah with the team since we missed the World Cup in 2018. And I'm now mad at soccer. So anyway. Brian, do you have any parting shots before we go?
I just want to say that, this time last year or around this time during the season, I know during our halftime breakdown of the last game, we were, commenting on the Chiefs defense. And I got to say, Spagnolia last year, we were also kind of frustrated with the defense, especially in the first half of the season. And it came around the second half of the season, and what happened. We saw some good stuff happen. So I'm keeping the faith. I mean, I know, we have to make adjustments. They're professionals, and he knows what he's doing and all that. However, the last game, we had some frustration to see how easily Carr and the Raiders got around what we were doing. However, I'm not losing that kind of faith, but it's just kind of hopefully we see some improvement coming forward, and especially as we get closer to the postseason. So I guess that's what I have to say about that. But things are moving along the way we like to see move on, and I'm excited for the next game tomorrow. So let's see what happens.
I love it. To kind of go on that, Brian, I mean, there is one thing that I do feel confident in saying. We haven't seen this team play their best football yet, and I definitely think that's still out there. And I love that attitude, and I agree. Steve Spagnuolo can definitely get things back on track, hopefully.
Yeah, I remember thinking my friends last year, whenever we were frustrated, I remember watching the Colts game last year, and they just ran over us, and we were getting really frustrated. And I remember sitting there with my friends going, look, adjustments have to be made. We're going to figure it out. Chris Jones, so what he's doing in terms of tackling the runner versus tackling what if we're going to be pass rush, he's better at the time, better at tracking the runner as opposed to tracking down the quarterback and all that. Those kinds of adjustments, right? Which are very deep knowledge of defense and everything. So, but yeah, I mean, if we haven't seen the best football yet, then that's a scary concept because, wow, it's been a lot of fun so far. So I'm excited to see what happens.
I like how you went the last scene of Bull Durham because I got to throw one more movie reference in here. We're taking this one game at a time. I'm just really happy to be here and so on and so forth.
God willing or something or other, yeah.
God willing. But no, that's great.
But you're going to go the way of the lollygaggers, but
No. Oh, Lordy. All right. Well, thanks again to our sound engineer / Andy Richter, Brian. Thank you, Chris, for everything. We are once again the Milwaukee Chiefs fan group podcast. Please, all Southeast Wisconsin residents, join us for game day. Visit us at mkechiefsfans.com. And we are once again presented by Complete Weddings and Events, your leading provider of photo, video, DJ, photo booth, lighting, and coordination services. And we will see you next week after this game.
All right, rock on.
Yeah.